Hello everyone, this is Pedro from Pythalista with one more video. Today we're going to talk about how to use Jupyter Notebook VS Code extension. That's the one that you can see here. And also I'll give you like a basic run through on how to set up and how to start a Jupyter Notebook in VS Code. And I'll give you an introduction to Pandas because Pandas is the library that you usually use in Jupyter Notebooks. So what are the advantages of using in a VS Code instead of like the normal route that someone uses a notebook? The easiest way that you can use a notebook is to go to Google Colab. So you can, if you have a Google account, you just go to collabresearch.google.com and then you can start a new notebook. And then it's an environment where you have Python installed, and then you can pretty much run the standard library, and even comes with basic libraries like Pandas. That's the one that we are going to demonstrate here. But because I've just started, it's initializing a it's connected now, and now those cells will run. So that's an easy way. But what are the advantages of using VS Code instead? There are various reasons. So one thing is you have access, if you are used to VS Code and the shortcuts, you have access to those. For example, a shortcut to delete a line is Control-Shift-K. Done. You have access to the autocomplete. For example, I have everything, and then you can press tab. And another advantage is like I like to use the dark mode here. And then another thing is you don't need to be running a server. You can attach to a virtual environment. That's what I'm doing here. So you can select another kernel, you can select another server, but in the case I have a virtual environment here that I have got activated. You can see that my virtual environment that's activated here, and then I click here and then I connect. So I have already a notebook created here, but if I need to, once obviously the extension is installed, to get another notebook, I can use the command palette, and then I do a Control-Shift-P, and then create, and then that's the one. And then if I click here, it creates a new notebook, and then you are good to go. So I'm gonna use this one, which I'm already have a script or lots of things I'm gonna go through in this demo. And I think I've already showed you how to set up. I'm not going through the creating a virtual environment. There are other videos that I can put the link here that you can install Python, create a virtual environment. But once you have a virtual environment running, and you can then attach to the notebook. The only thing that you have to do is for this to work, you need to install those dependencies in your environment. You have to install Pandas, Notebook, Matplotlib, PyODBC. Those two you don't really need because in this demo I'm not doing any connections, but I've done another demo for my company, and then I connect to PyODBC and SQL, and then I had to use it. But for this one, you don't need it. So before I start, I'm just gonna give the most useful shortcut in Jupyter Notebooks that will help you to speed up and do things quicker. So if I'm on the current cell, if I wanted to run the current cell, I do Shift Enter. So that cell run. So the way a cell of notebook works is that, and that's the advantage for especially someone that's learning how to code. So if I have a cell here, and then I write some code, and then I say print hello, so nothing happens. But if I wanted to run that cell, I just press Shift Enter, and then it runs. And then it prints all the standard output for the last command on that cell. So other useful commands, as you can see here, to make that cell marked down, I do Escape M. doesn't make any sense. Markdown is like anything that's not code, but Markdown also is a language where you can use, usually the readmes of GitHub are always written in Markdown. It's not the purpose of this video, but I'll give you a link at the end where you can learn some basics of Markdown. So to make that Markdown cell back to code, you do escape Y, and then it goes back to code. To activate that cell, just press enter. So another three good ones is escape A, which adds a cell above the current cell, and then you can write some more code here. And then the other one is escape B, which is below. So create a cell below the current one. And then to delete those cells, you just press escape DD twice. Escape DD, escape DD. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm just gonna run really quick through Pandas. And so before I go any further, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, click the bell and like the video. So the way we usually import pandas is like import pandas SPD. It's the convention, and then let's run that. So I've installed the latest version of pandas, so which is 2.0.1. There is a lot into pandas. The two main objects classes are series and data frame, which I'm going to explain in a while. So there are a lot of methods. It's over 400 methods and attributes. So if I run that, you can see that series has got 411 and data frame 427. So if you go into documentation of pandas and you go API reference, and then just to give you an example, if I go to data frame, so these are all the methods and things that you can call when you instantiate a data frame. It's massive. So before I start, I'm just gonna give you a little bit of an idea of what a data frame is. It's pretty much if you worked with Excel or databases, it's equivalent to a worksheet in Excel or a table in a database where you have rows and columns. I'm just gonna show, that's it. A data frame is nothing more than a table with rows and columns. Interesting though is every column of a data frame is what they call a series. So if you go here and go to that tutorial, it says here each column of data frame is a series object. And as I demonstrate here in the walkthrough, you understand that better. So I'm gonna create some data here in the data frame. There are various ways to create data into a data frame. You can import from a database, you can import from CSV, from Parquet, from Excel. There are many ways to do it. But for this example, at the beginning, I'm just gonna create some dummy data here. And then this is getting from the Pandas tutorial. So I'm creating like a dictionary, and every key of this dictionary is the name of the column. And then you pass as value a list, and every element of that list is an item in a data frame row. It's pretty much like this is a series, and then once we create that data, which we're going to put the variable data, and then to create a data frame, you just like initiate any variable, and then you do PD, which is the pandas as we imported, and then you call it the method. It's not actually a method, I think it's a class, and then you pass the data, and that's it. You have got data frame. If you wanted to visualize that data frame, you just type df and then you have a data frame. So that's pretty much it. So, and then here are some attributes of this data frame that are useful that I know from memory out of those 450, which is columns. So it shows the columns of the data frame. Let's select one column. To select one column, we just do df and then square bracket and the name of the column. In the case is name. So that's gonna show you that column. And then the type of object, as I said before, is a series. So if we copy that column here from data frame, it's gonna say it's a Pandas course series. So I'm just gonna demonstrate that again, just to that you can kind of understand the concept better. I'm just gonna create like a variable called numbers, and then I'm just gonna that's gonna be a Pandas series, and then I'm just gonna pass like a list with 3 items. And then I'm just gonna assign that to a new column of the data frame. And that's as easy as creating a new column. We just go df, we have age, name, sex, but that's now created one called numbers. And then you just assign to numbers, which is that series, and there we go. And then if I show the df again, it is here. It's a new column. So let's now get some data that I got from Kaggle here. It's a Netflix ranking of the top 10 movies every day for like a couple of years. And then let's do some analysis or show some functionality of pandas that facilitate analysis of data. So what I'm doing here, like we are importing from CSV. So the data is here. And as I said, as I did before, like you can see the columns of this data frame. So there we go. Another very useful one is shape. If I go shape, it shows it's a tuple where the first element is number of rows and 10 is the number of columns. Another very useful one is the head of the data frame. If you do Netflix head, it's gonna show the first 5 rows of your data frame, but you can specify any number. If I want to say 2, it's gonna show the top 2. Another interesting method is describe. If I do data frame name and then describe and call that method, it's gonna get all the numeric columns of your data frame. Out of those 10, 7 are not numeric and 3 are, and other numerics give you the basic statistics like count, mean, standard deviation, mean, max, and some percentile here. So another thing that I use a lot is data types to see what data type, when that CSV was imported, Pandas inferred. Usually it casts everything as object, which you can call it a string, which can be anything, but sometimes it interprets and can cast as a date or as an integer or whatever. So if we go the types, and then it's gonna show you, for example, as I said, 3 of them are numeric and the other one are objects. So another useful one, which gives a little bit more detail than data types, is info. If I go Netflix info, and then it gives a little bit more information, it gives data type, the name, the index, the number of objects that are from each data type, and then it also says tell the non-null count. So pretty much there's no nulls in every column except this one that has got some of nulls. And then, so I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to give some examples of what methods you can use in a series or a column. Let's say, for example, if I go the S of column, that's the dates. But let's say I wanted to get the maximum date. I just call it the maximal, and then it gives you the maximal of that, the highest number. In this case, it's an object, it's a string, but I think it's gonna work the same. For dates, probably I think it's in America format, 22, 3, 10, 11. It looks like it's 11 of March. If I want to account of the number of titles that I have in this column, I just do Netflix and then go, obviously, the column, which is title. And then I just call value counts, and it's gonna count the values. So the most common occurrence in this column is Cocomelon, which is a show in Netflix. It's masking here. Oh, sorry. So you can filter the database by doing a Boolean filter. What I mean by that, so if I go on Netflix and say rank, which rank that film, the movie was at that day. So let's say I wanted to filter all the movies that were number one. So, and then it gets a true, false, which is in that row, in that column, I'm just testing if that predicate here is true or false. And then if you wanted to filter that, what you do is you have the data frame and then you put brackets and pass that Boolean, and then that's gonna filter and return the data frame. So, but that's gonna return the whole data frame, but just 710 columns, not 7,100, because it's 10% of the rows, because I'm just getting the top one. But let's say I wanted to count the move that has been the most in number one, and then I can do the method of that result, which is, sorry, I need first to filter the column, which is title of this data frame, and then do the value counts. So that's gonna be Cobra Kai, which is the movie which has been the most, at least at this time, as number one. Another thing that's very useful is if I wanted to sort my data frame. So if I can go sort values, but if I'm applying to that data frame, I would just want to know by what column, and then I wanted to sort by title, and then it sorts by title. So number alive is the first one. A good thing about Pandas is that it's iterative. So if I go on the Netflix columns, so I don't like those space here's. I usually like to have either all together, or I can have like underscore. And then what I can do here, I can iterate to these columns. So if you use like list comprehension Python, you can do for call in columns. I can return call, which is the column. So that's it. You can iterate. But I wanted to split that, and then it returns those. But and then I wanted to join those items of that list, and then add a underscore. So in Python it's pretty easy. So if I do that, and then that's return that, and then what I do, I just assign back to the columns, and then that's gonna return for me. So and then if I call the columns again, and then now it's nicer. So you can use the apply method to a series. So you select a column, let's say days, sorry, days in top 10, and then I'm just going to apply a function. So what you need to do is apply a function. You pass here a function. Let's divide this by 2. Okay, so I pass the function. I'm just passing an anonymous function here. And then every item on this column, I'm just going to divide by 2. So there we go. So it's possible to do that, but it's much faster if you use a vectorized operation. So I'm just going to time it to show you how long it's going to take and how fast is the vectorize as compared to using apply. So it's doing some tests here, and this took 8.41 microseconds. It took a while because it runs like 1,000 times just to see on average how long it took. But if I do this as a vectorize operation. So if I just divide that by 2, that's gonna be much quicker. So, and then let's do the comparison of time. I'm just gonna time it, and then I'll do how many times faster this one was. So this one, or how many times slower that one was. I'll do the other one and we'll see how much faster that one was. What's the percentage of time of the faster one? So it was 6% of the time. So I can use also a dot notation. So but it only works if there is no space in between the column name. So let's apply a let's see the column first. So this column is like a date, but let's say I wanted to extract just those 4 items here. I can apply a anonymous function here. So, and then I'm just gonna, because it's a string, I can call it, I can slice it and get the first 4 items. And then that's gonna get the year. So, but let's say I want just to be that as an integer. And I'm just gonna cast that, and that it returns like as an integer. So about pandas, if you have that column, there's a method called toDateTime. So if I pass that column to datetime, and then that becomes datetime. But once that column is datetime, I can call a method called dt. And then I can call year, that's the year, and then it also returns as a integer as well. But I can get the month, oops, and then it gets the month and so forth. So the thing is, once you know those utilities here, things can be more efficient.